Alright, here's my quick Blade Master build that I used for leveling. Built around the Almond Bees and Flurry. And basically, the whole build is using Flurry and then applying bleed stacks and just seeing how many bleed stacks can get on the enemy. And we also have Almond Bee. And I started leveling with just two Almond Bees with the passive on this tree, which lets you for the rogue, it lets you equip a sword or dagger in your offhand so you can dual wield. And we just went dexterity. Dexterity is just helps our base damage a little bit. Most of our damage comes from just bleeds though. And we have more attack speed, which is what we're scaling is attack speed and bleed. Because crit damage doesn't affect damage over time at all. So just bleeds, attack speed with the extra fizz. Any base damage added onto the melee is just extra DPS, so that's good too. And then every third hit, you get a 100% damage boost. We are hitting like crazy. So that is a big boost every 3 hits. And then this is crazy. This is kind of the main thing that makes this build work is every third hit, you get 5 stacks of bleed applied like instantly. So every 3 hits, we're applying 5 stacks of bleed plus the attack speed. That's just an insane amount of bleed stacks that go on the enemy. You can get up to like 100 in like a couple seconds, especially on bosses. And then we're running just a little bit of mana gain because later in this campaign, I found that adding Shadow Cascade actually does quite a bit of damage because Shadow Cascade scales off attack speed, which we're using anyways for Flurry. And one problem with Flurry is it kind of sucks for clear, and Shadow Cascade gives it adds pretty good clear, especially with shadows and smoke. And this was actually killing like mini bosses and sort of like things a little bit more bursty than Flurry was. So, but Flurry I'd always used for bosses, and then sort of shadows with this would be just to like burst down enemies real quick. So yeah, started with Flurry, transitioned into Cascade for later in the campaign, as it was getting a lot faster clear. So we have Dexterity, and I don't have any res right now because I was running idols for res, and I had about like 30 res, but it didn't really matter since the Humming Bee, every time you hit an enemy, just every melee hit, you get ward back. So just standing here doing this to an enemy, you're gaining like just 500 plus ward just like instantly, and nothing will really kill you with just the humming bees during the campaign, even with like low resist and all that. This Grimoire is probably my favorite leveling thing for the campaign. It gives 33 necrotic damage, flat necrotic to your melee attacks and spells. You can wear it at level 0, and it applies when you use a potion. So standing here on a boss and then you pop your potion, you're getting 32 flat on every hit that's coming off of Flurry. So that's just a ton of burst damage, especially early on like any build. You will just like one shot most things by just popping a potion. So yeah, this item I highly recommend on most builds that can scale melee attacks or spells. And then just quickly, more crit chance, which is being counteracted by these gloves that I used. But the gloves are getting almost 40% move speed, and you get a lot of dodge. And like I said, crit doesn't affect our dot damage, but this I just used before I got these gloves, and the crit chance is nice, especially with this. You run a crit build, uh, and you can decide whether you want the attack speed from the gloves. You can put lots of different. You could use these. Fighting chance, you get more melee damage. Health on kill, There's this for attack speed, just anything. You could craft a glove, whatever you find. If you don't have any of these uniques, just anything. You could still make this work. Just stack in attack speed, damage over time. You could get more bleed damage without these, for sure. The bleeding heart's really nice if you have one. You get a ton of damage leached as health. You have less health regen, but that doesn't matter because we're just leached from attack speed. This one's nice. It rolled fizz, but you don't need that. And you're inflicted with bleed when you cast a spell, but we don't have spells, so it doesn't matter. And then these boots, just generic dodge radiant dexterity. This is nice. You get +1 to fizz. Flurry is a fizz skill. And then you get bleed chance, which we're stacking as much bleed chance, and you get a little bit of movement speed. So yeah, Flurry, just damage. I went this path first, damage, crit chance, and we just rush in to get the shockwaves for the force. So basically, this is how we make Flurry into a semi-ranged ability. It just helps our clear since you're covering this large area in front of you. And then just extend the wave range. Damage over time is really good, and this is amazing for stacking poison as well, just as extra damage over time. And then you're also getting some poison shred. And this is individual hits, and we're hitting constantly. Attack speed, and then this is getting us adrenaline rush, which is more attack speed. And this is just, I only put 1 point since it's a chance. We're already attacking so fast that you don't need that much chance. It'll just proc, and it can stack up to 4 times. So it's pretty easy to get mat stacks on that. And then more bleed chance. Damage to bosses. This is only, oh, I guess it is. I thought it was hit damage, but I guess it's straight damage to bosses. Oh, it is hit, yeah, hit damage. So this isn't crazy for us, but any flat or anything to just boost the base hits does up our DPS. But it is mostly a bleed build. And then just like all the other rogue builds I've made, just add in mana efficiency, cooldown, and then get in momentum. This is huge for any rogue build. You will just zoom around, and then the shadow, and then shadow cascade when you leave behind a shadow. It's really nice for clear. And a lot of times, just dashing into the enemy, just that initial shadow cascade would kill the group, especially if they don't have that much health. And then we're invulnerable, and we give energy back. And once you get enough dexterity, I think, yeah, it gives you mana efficiency. So once you get enough dexterity, shift actually gives you free mana back. So that's kind of cool between these two. And then scaling, we get a huge burst of dexterity, huge burst of dodge chance per dexterity. And it only lasts for a second, but it's nice, especially if you get this cooldown really low. You can get it down to like below 3 seconds. And if you have cooldown in your gear, you could get even faster, and then you're constantly getting a huge amount of dodge. And then we went smoke bomb, and for the flat melee is what I was using for leveling. It's just getting as much flat as I can early on in the game. And then shadows I added later, and a little more coverage because on this build, unlike the flash thrower, the shadows being spread out actually helps a lot because our spin only covers a certain range. And then synchronized strike is sort of weird. I think it takes up way too much mana. Like it hurts to use because of the mana cost, but it is a this is basically just like a burst. If you ever have a chunky guy and you just want to burst him down, you get a ton of shadows, and that's about it. I just use it as like a burst for bosses, but it does like tank your whole mana in like one cast. I'm sure you could fix that if you invested a lot of mana in your character. And it does create shadows, so that's the only reason I'm using it. On the tree, just bleed chance. We talked about this. Blade Dancer. Melee damage, attack speed, it's basically just to get to the nets where we want global over time. Bleed chance, poison chance. Why not stack poison and bleed because we're already going overtime? And then just physical damage, flat, more bleed chance, more bleed chance, damage while you're dual wielding, and that's get to this where we have an axe and sword to get 160 more bleed chance. And the rest of it, I didn't really have anything that I saw was like super crazy, but I'd probably have to come back to optimize it more. But this is just what I used for the campaign. And oh yeah, the items. So the why the axe and the sword is we have this axe that I found later. I didn't I found this when I was like level 40, so it was like super late. But if you have one of these early on, oh my god, you're gonna be doing some crazy damage because this when you hit a bleeding enemy with a melee attack, all bleed stacks on that enemy are doubled in speed. So the bleeds will be proccing like twice as fast, and we're applying so many bleeds. So this is like a huge damage boost for sure. And you get 30 melee flat, which is crazy for level 13, and more bleed chance. So yeah, this with the Hummin Bee, and the Hummin Bee is to get us ward. So I'd recommend anything with like a high amount of ward on it, or if you get some really nice prefixes or suffixes added on from I think Nemesis has dropped them, or you could do like the legendary. Anyways, so yeah, and then I already talked about most of this gear, but yeah, this axe is what I run because of the double in the bleed. So yeah, I think that's it for this build. Not much to talk about other than like attack fast, stacked bleeds, and everything pretty much dies. This is definitely the best boss killer that I've made so far. So yeah, that's it for him.